Hello. How's everybody doing?
Congratulations on making it this early. We're just in the process of waking up ourselves.
All right, we're going to do a quick sound check. The last guy in green, can you hear me okay? That's good. This side sounds all right? Okay, perfect. All right, happy Friday. We made it. Amazing. Although some of you still look like... but along the way, you are going to make it. Can I just get a quick poll, get a good sense of where everybody's from? Who's from the industry? Can I have a show of hands? Industry people? Only one. Creative. More? All right.
Don't be shy.
Anybody from the academia front? Anybody? One? Anybody else? Feel like I'm doing an auction. All right. Anybody from the non-creative industry? Anybody? Non-creative people? Wow, only creative folks. We are the best people. We wake up at 6 a.m. and feel really happy to attend a happy conference. What about people from school? Any school student, would-be student, going back to student, trying to be student? Not too many. All right, thank you. You made it here.
Right, thanks for your action. So today we're going to talk about a topic that's pretty broad and actually not very easy. We browse through Google, Amazon, there are tens of thousands of books on happiness in various different forms, and we just didn't want to do anything that's been mentioned. So we kind of were inspired by this image. Happiness is submission to Godzilla.
Yes, let me just add on to this. Happiness is submission to Godzilla. It's self-made. As Yah-Leng said, happiness, if you look at Amazon.com, you get 140,000 hits. You get definition of the philosophy of happiness. You get the definition of the economics of happiness. There is even a book on the politics of happiness, which I thought, wow, I need to read that book. Also because we're a foreign policy design group.
So we decided to take a slightly different spin on the subject matter. Okay, so the art of achieving client happiness instead of the science of happiness, because there's no real formula for creating happiness or providing happiness or generating happiness. So the art.
Right, and you'll notice what we'll try to do is we're going to keep today's session a little bit simple. It's still early in the morning. While some of the information might come across as being simple, but they're just as important. And also it solves us the problem of trying to define what happiness, because everybody defines happiness in a different way. But what is good to note that we were just told that the tickets sold out in 2 hours, which is quite unusual. I suspect it's because of the topic of happiness. It's either everybody is still looking for the elusive happiness, or you're pretty happy and you're trying to be happier. So hopefully...
Or you're trying to make us happy.
Or you're trying to make us happy.
So let's start on the topic. We have we made it really simple for you guys. So the first point that we really want to share with you guys is
the right client.
The right client.
Let me start on that. There have been talks about there's such thing as a good client, there's a good thing, there's such things as a bad client. We refine that slightly and just say, get yourself, if you want to be happy, get yourself the right client. What do you mean by the right client? The process of choosing the right client is absolutely critical for you to keep your hair black. If you want your hair to turn white really quickly, you know, pick anyone that walks through the door. You as you would not marry or date anybody who walks right through your door, you wouldn't just pick on any client. And that's one of the philosophy within the studio. We turn away many clients. And part of the reason for that is, what do you want to do as a creative? What do you want to achieve? If you are looking to create groundbreaking works, then probably you need to find the same type of client who shares the same philosophy. It sounds simple, but it's absolutely critical, because if you think about it, if you're looking to do something that's a little bit more crafty, that's a little bit out of the box, then if you find a client who's very conservative, there is absolutely no way. There's no way you can change them. I mean, it's just not going to happen. But if you happen to meet somebody within an organization who is progressive, who is visionary, who believes in what you do, and who's willing to step up and fend for you, that's good. But you also need to you should identify the type of organization that this person is working in. Because is he or she able to change the way and push the ideas forward on your behalf? And that's a question that you might want to address.
But we're not asking everybody to discriminate against any clients, because I think there are enough clients in the world for everybody. One client who may not fit us might fit another. So it works that way. So maybe you have a certain style or a certain philosophy, and if the client or the project fits, then it will work. If not, then it's going to be a really difficult journey.
Right. So in addition to that, the concept about the right client is do not be afraid to turn away those that you feel may not be the right one. And take some time. Consider dating the client. Before you date, suss them out a little bit, talk to them a little bit, have coffee, get that sense, because it's really critical, firstly. And secondly, also identify the working level groups. For example, the person that you could be speaking to, if it's an SME, it will be probably the boss or the founder, but you want to identify the working level group that you will be in direct contact with. Because the working level is the one that's going to determine whether your hair stays on your head or it falls off your head.
Right. Just want to share a quote from one of our favoriteest client, Mr. Lo Lik Peng. And this is a quote that we've kind of used for all our talks and lectures. So
no digging around and abortive work. Yeah, hooray to that.
Yeah, I'm sure everybody likes it.
And let me share with you, this is rare. This is very rare. For the most part, 99.9999%, they're not like that. So continue the hunt. It is really important.
On the topic of empathy, I'm sure many of you out here may have bitched about client or like really get upset with them for when you're working on a certain projects and you have a hardship and you really want to kill them or something, but and for the most part you think they look like that, right?
Right. I'm sure maybe your boss looks like that too, If you look across and you seriously think about it, for the most part, clients or bosses and colleagues, they are not as
evil
as it appears. The art of empathy has been said many times. This is nothing new, but it's really sometimes you forget. The condition, the situation which is facing the counterpart who you are working with. Let me give you an example. I mean, creative, let's say if you're producing, say, a corporate stationery, right? I mean, as creative, you like to add stuff. You want to do edge printing on the business card. You want to do your emboss. You want to do your deboss. You want to do your varnish. You want to do your this. You want to do your that. And you even want it to be gold-plated, sent in a beautiful box. And you want all of that for a business card. But it really doesn't make sense for the client. We have situations whereby a folder costs something like $20 a piece. So if I were to give out a folder one to everybody here, it's going to cost me like $10,000. So sometimes just making sure you put yourself in the client's perspective, that empathy is worth so much, so much. And it's something that we would seriously encourage you to put yourself as much as possible in the client's shoe, although you know that they look exactly like the picture, but try not to think of that. Think of them as Cinderella or something, Snow White, the best person in the world. And your mindset will start to shift. As that shift, it becomes dramatic. And you'll notice that you become happier. For some reason, nothing has changed, just yourself. It's self-made.
Right. Anybody could guess what's the next point that we want to ponder upon?
You get more free coffee if you can guess.
Anybody?
All right, we'll show you.
This is by far the most underestimated and most feared.
This is a secret weapon of happiness.
Right. We don't understand why people just don't pick up the phone and talk to the client. It's just ridiculous.
Emails, believe me, is the worst possible means of communication. Absolutely the worst. Because, it really doesn't make sense when the emails go back and forth just a couple of times. It's good to pick up that sense that, okay, I need to grab the phone right away and have that communication. Because firstly, you get to access the tonality on the other side, which is typically not available on the email. Well, sometimes you do. But you can sort out issues fairly quickly, and you build a relationship with the client or the colleagues really quickly. I've seen cases like this. I see the email going back and forth, and the next thing I know, okay, this thing is going to blow up. I send an email to my coworker and say, you better pick up the phone. True enough, the next email that comes in wasn't very pleasant. So always pick up the phone. It's your best friend. I know it sound kind of weird. Every one of us hold an iPhone or something that you prefer to text and you prefer to use Facebook, but do pick up the phone. It is such a powerful tool, and it's actually quite fun using it.
Yeah, I think you build a lot of rapport and relationship between yourself and the client. Which you could just have a real conversation with them instead of texting. I've seen people texting to a client back and forth, what the hell? Just pick up the phone and talk, So just do it the old-fashioned way, and it works. And actually, there's a quote that I found that was shared by Marie Smith. She's a social media consultant that she was interviewed on the New York Times, and this is what she said. Because many companies nowadays, they don't even have a number on the website. You just email them, and you get pissed because you don't get any response from them. That's exactly what we're talking about. And so you don't want your brand or your company or your studio or yourself to suffer that kind of fate. So please pick up the phone, talk.
Sure. Please do not undermine the power of communication. It's really, really critical. Well, the other thought is, in order to keep the client happy, obviously we need to create inspiring, well, at least in our mind, inspiring design. This is just a few simple tips just to keep everybody on a even keel.
We often forget to take a break. I know for myself, I'm guilty of being so addicted to all the technology in the world. iPhone, iPad, the chats, the emails, and reading the blogs, blah, blah, blah. You're always looking at your phone, which is so rude. And you're always immersed in this world of internet, Google, whatever, design, Photoshop. And many times you get lost. It's really like a whirlpool. And soon enough, you feel that you can't have any great ideas or good inspirations. And we often advocate the need for a detox, which we call a digital detox. And I recommend that every 2 months or even a month, you do a short retreat or a little detox just to get yourself, put yourself back to sanity. One of the recent trip that we took, we took a drive 4 hours up to Malaysia, and end up in this nobody's place. And this is what we see when we wake up in the morning.
That's it, nothing else. And it's kind of funny because I'm not sure what is common here. For the most part, we like to bring our laptops. So in this particular instance, no laptops, no iPads, even a phone, no phone.
Well, there's no reception up there anyways.
Yes. And the other thing about digital detox is something that occurred to me. Oftentimes when we do creative research, I know Google is amazing, right? You can find everything in Google, but please, our life in the creative world doesn't just center on Google. Get out of Google somehow. Go to the nearby bookstores or get out. It really gives you a different perspective than just looking at the pictures on the face of the computer.
I mean, we are human beings, right? So we need to get in touch and interact with the world, the universe. You know, if you stop doing that, you're no more human. And I don't know how you're going to create designs or create inspirations from, I don't know, computer is just computer. The other thing that we like to do is snowboarding. I mean, it's one of our top passion, and we'll make a trip out once a year at least. So we visited different places, and I think this is a place where you can find zen, sanity. Again, there's nobody, no reception, no phone, no iPads, no computer. And you just find yourself in this white nothingness.
Yeah, just going to add real quick. I don't work for the travel agency, but you guys have to go to Hokkaido. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, okay, you have the East Coast skiing and there's the West Coast, but Hokkaido is just powder. I mean, when you fall, you don't get all the bruises, and it's, when you're done, you do your onsen, which in the outdoors, and then you do your shabu-shabu thereafter. It's amazing. So I highly encourage you to go. But if you want to look for a good agency, you can look for me.
We're just gonna share with some of the views that you see out there that you can't see on Travel and Discover. You want to talk about that?
Again, I'm not from a travel agency. Okay, again, I highly recommend this. This is in Siam Reap, Angkor Wat. I remember we took an 8:30 flight in the morning, 8:30 a.m., something like this. You can do it. You can wake up and catch that flight. And by about 11:30 a.m., this is what you see. I mean, the change is just mind-blowing and totally changed your psyche and your state of mind. Maybe the client who looks like a little bit like that doesn't look quite like that anymore. I remember this is where they took the earlier picture. They took the movie The Tomb Raider. So I remember at that time I had to use the toilet really quickly. So I went around. I couldn't find the toilet. So I found two policemen. I said, "Can you give me a ride?" It was great. You get a policeman get you onto a motorbike and it just send you to the nearest toilet. I mean, it's thrilling, and the wind is in the hair was really fun. The reason why I'm showing this is awesome. Okay, I think you cannot quite tell. The reason about getting out there to get this detox and this quotient of happiness is critical. Like in this particular case, I'm not sure whether you could see on this side, it's actually the serpent head. And there are little gods or devil on one side. The gods is on one side. That's the end of the serpent tail. That's the devil on the other side. So here goes the story, right? I think it's kind of interesting. It's about the Hindu myth about looking for the elixir of longevity. So in order to get this elixir, what you need to do is you need to churn. They call it the Milky Ocean. So how do you churn the Milky Ocean? What they did was they had 88 gods and 92 devils. I'm not sure how they came up with the number. It's not balanced. The 88 gods will hold the serpent king's head. The 92 devil will hold the serpent king's tail. They'll coil this serpent king around a mountain and then set this mountain on top of a tortoise back. And then they will churn the sea. Do you get it? And then as you churn the sea over years and years, these wonderful treasures will come out from the sea, and magical pill, magical horse with flying horses before you finally get the pill of elixir. The reason why I share this is mind-blowing because at 8:30 in the morning at Changi Airport, by about 11:30 a.m., this is what you are listening. It's mind-blowing. And this is, to me, one of the privileges of being in Asia because you are so near to so many amazing places. There's another beautiful place in Laos. It's called Luang Prabang. It's on one of the World Heritage Sites. Do go visit. I know, again, I'm not from the travel agency, but be happy. It's not expensive if you have to travel from the European countries or the South America. It's a long journey, but from here it's 2 hours. Get out there, get some fresh air. You'll feel a lot happier about yourself, and you know things will go a lot better for you.
This is another of the philosophy that we like to have. Don't take things too seriously. We are in this creative industry, and it's a very difficult job because you need to do everything, and there's clients to deal with. So if you don't take things, if you take things too seriously, you're gonna get burned out real quick, and you're gonna leave this industry real quick too. So I'm just gonna share with you some of the silly things and fun things that we do at work. Okay, this was a time when iPhone just launched, and one of our coworkers hasn't had a chance to get her hands on one yet. So what she did was she made a paper iPhone.
So it goes back to the point, sometimes you can do little things. Happiness is oftentimes self-made. It's seriously self-made. Don't take the small things too seriously. Don't sweat. As you say, don't sweat the small things. Sometimes you just do little things. So she got an earlier version of iPad, I think.
The next version was, we did an iPad, but this time we printed in color, so it looked real, right? And we started making paper dolls ourselves. It's kind of self-indulgent, but it got really serious because we started to play out roles, fantasy that we want ourselves to be. That's after, actually.
Yeah, it made me a little bit taller. It helps.
He wants to be a David Bowie and some other Lady Gaga, Elton John, and Borat. We had such a great fun. We had good team spirit. We created or imagined characters for one another. We could make fun of each other, one another, tease one another. There was something that was quite precious. And this girl, I think she really enjoyed this process. I think she spent nights fantasizing herself as a Kiss, Wally Wonka.
Yeah, also through this, you sort of get a sense of the hidden desires. I'm sure some of you aspire to be like that.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes we create events, simple events like lunch, we call it, and we make little posters and tickets,
Yeah, we sell them at 50 cents per coupon, so if anybody's interested, you're most welcome to join us.
And one of the coworkers actually organized this tea party.
Let me just add on to this. One of our coworkers did this bubble tea thing, and to me is really self-made because she took it on by herself. Nobody asked her to do it. Nobody. One day she said, I'm going to do this bubble tea thing in the studio, and she prepared all the stuff, she put all the Tupperware, she cooked the stuff beforehand, she bought the stuff. I'm not sure how she got it all by herself onto the bus and then drag it along to the train. I'm sure she annoyed some people along the way as she pushed through the crowd and finally brought it to the studio. But I think happiness, as I say, is really self-made. Sometimes you just take it easy, have a little bit of fun. Sometimes it takes a little bit more from you to do it, but so long as you're happy doing it, please, by all means, do it. And this one I love. This was something that we saw when we were out in New York. It was basically the presidential race in process. This is what they sell at 7-Eleven. So when you buy your coffee, you get to choose whether you're on the Democrat side or the Republican side, right? So you can choose your own cup. We love it because we kept going back and say, okay, because we're a little bit
Well, Democrats.
Yeah. So we start to build up on the blue cups. But this is what I mean. Happy design is important. Really getting that inspiration requires you to really allows your brain to kind of flex a little bit. But to me, this was a very simple way to really be happy about it. And turned out this is fairly accurate in terms of predicting by the state whether it's a Republican state or a Democrat state. This actually turned out to be pretty accurate. So you might want to take a cue from here the next time for the next election.
We did one for ourselves at the office, Since we're not of any party allegiance, we just created our own party.
We are the voting party.
As you guys are also.
You guys have belong to the voting party too.
We have a huge number, right?
So yes, that's pretty much it. We were given 20 minutes. I hope we did okay on the time. Do we take questions? Yeah.
So actually right now we come to one of my favorite parts of the morning, which is the Q&A, where people start to choose from the many questions that they have in their heads. We'll do about 15 minutes of this. So who would like to ask the first question? This always takes a while. It's always like this. Friday morning, coffee, happiness, big topic. Is everyone that happy?
My question is, when you think of the elixir of happiness, do you think it's just one thing, or do you think it's just a combination of many different things, or what would that be?
Good question. The question is the definition of the elixir of happiness. In truth, there's no such thing. There was a study that says something to the effect of 50% of how happy you are, you can blame it on your parents. It's genetics. The other 40% is self-control, what you feel your position are in, and the 10% belongs to circumstantial. So what of the three items, there's only the 40% that you can control. We cannot control our genetics. I mean, if you're born to be this hot, fiery person, you are going to be that hot, fiery person. But even hot, fiery person can be happy, but in a very warm way. But other than that, for the most part, it's really about perspective. It goes back to the classic example of, is the cup half empty or is the cup half full? So long as you get the right perspective, generally you'll be able to maintain it. But that digital detox that we were talking about and getting away out there really helped, because if I don't get out within about a month or two, I'll start to get a little bit more agitatable, and a little bit more, and a little bit more, and the clients start to transform, and from looking a little bit more like humans, start to look a little bit kind of weird. The tails start to come out a little bit, the horns start to come out a little bit. So there's no perfect definition of happiness. There's about 140,000 books out there that talks about happiness. It's really, to me, is self-defined, and self-definition sometimes is dependent on the amount of stress that you're going through and the circumstantial position that you're in. There's no magic formula. Just go out there, just smile to the person on your left and on your right. Even though you do not know them, you might feel a little bit happier, although they might give you a weird look. Thank you. Any other questions, thoughts, comments? It doesn't have to be related to happiness. It can be anything. Yes, thank you.
I have a friend who does his best thinking in the shower or even on the toilet. Where do you do your best thinking?
That's a very personal question.
For me, it's the bathtub.
It's actually an excellent question as well as an example. The reason, there has also been a study why ideas come to you at that moment. The reason is simply because you are not doing anything else. It's a concept of focus. See, for example, if you're trying to get your inspiration looking at Google and Google and Google and more Google, getting away during the shower or during the business or even a run, some people do run often, you get into that mental state of focus, and that mental state of focus start to clear your mind. I'm sure many of you have the similar experiences that during that moment you get your inspiration. But that said, it doesn't mean that we should have. I don't think we plan to have more toilets and shower tub in the studio. But yes. There's no fixed moment. It could be that moment that you are out. A friend of ours owns a yacht, and he just get out there on the weekend. He gets his best thinking there. For me, I think for the most part, it's really in your own personal zone that nobody's bugging you. So maybe the toilet is indeed a best place to be. Thank you. Question, thoughts, comment? Yes, thank you. Can you repeat the question?
How do you deal with the wrong plans?
Well, typically we already not accept them in the first place. That's one. And if we mistakenly thought that they are good clients, then you cut them out quick as possible. Or secondly, you just finish it off as professionally as you can and bye. Yeah. Don't leave a client in lurch. That's my code of ethics.
Yes, it's that ideally, if it's wrong, fire, get the hell out of there as soon as you can. But the truth of the matter is, sometimes it is difficult. There are two philosophies of thought. One philosophy is, if you get into a bad situation, hold out. Just hang on there. Do your best. Just continue that pain and enjoy the process as you can. The other school of thought is get out as quickly as possible. There's no right or wrong formula. For the most part, we try to hang on if we can do that situation as best as we can, and you have to deal with all the idiosyncrasy and trying to be this master of meditation as well as empathy guru. But when push comes to shove, it's really not happening. Sometimes it's actually better just to get out early because it could get even more complicated further down the road. Unfortunately, we cannot change the counterpart. And that's the other thing that I shared earlier. The main contact point, always look beyond the main contact person. We need to establish the organizational structure. Is it the boss that you're going to be dealing with? What kind of personality he is? Is it the senior management, the plus one manager, the plus two manager, and maybe the working level people? We need to establish all of that. Any one person along that hierarchy can potentially derail the entire relationship. So yeah, you could either fire them and keep a smiling face as best you can, or you just suck it in and go through. But if you do suck it in, don't ever sign them up again. Find the best possible excuse. You need to go skiing or something. You cannot take on the next project. Yes, I saw a hand. Yes, thank you.
You guys take this job. And one more question. How do you guys deal with client and tissue design?
Okay, I think the first question is whether we take picture. Excellent question. I wanted to share that. Please do not ever do pictures that are for free. It really doesn't make sense. Let me give you a classic example. This is, yes, it's really not at the top of the choice. Let me explain to you. If there are pictures, they should be paid, and we should collectively move as an industry. Let me give you a classic example. If you get into a legal situation, and you need to find a lawyer representation, how many of us would send an email out to 20 legal representatives out there, Set up a date next Monday. Please come in. You get 1 hour each and tell me how you are going to fight my case for you. That doesn't make sense. I mean, which lawyer would absolutely do that for free? No, nobody. I think design and creative is really a professional industry. I mean, we are largely trained, either formally or informally. What we produce are sometimes as respectable in many ways, as a legal industry, maybe in different ways. But just as you would not ask the lawyers to pitch for your job and your case, that ideal situation shouldn't happen. Although I do understand there are certain exceptions, but where possible, if we're going to do pitching, it should be paid where possible. For the most part, we turn away projects that requires pitching, and that's the other note. Sometimes the client do come back after the pitching process because they just couldn't find the right people. So you still win out. What was the second question again?
How do you deal with clients that teaches you how to design?
Like a
I
back-
refer them to Yah-Leng.
That's what I call a backseat art director. It's a good question because it's something that you don't want to have. We've actually have not much of experience dealing with that, maybe 1 or 2 cases, but those are the clients that you don't want to ever take them on again. And we've learned how to control them. You just have to put in certain clauses and terms and conditions, and when you take on a project, always tell them up front that, hey, you are hiring us, therefore you should put your trust in us as a designer. That's all. If they overstep that boundary, then there will be punishment from us.
Just to add on to that is, typically when that happens, the definition of that scenario comes in 2 forms. Number 1 is the client do not understand quite what their role is and what your role is. That's the first scenario. The second scenario is the respect between you and the client has disappeared. There is a fundamental reason, because when the client feel that you are not producing what they think you should be producing, and that's just from their perspective, then they will try to art direct from behind the scene. So the way to solve that, number 1, is figure out how to re-establish that position of respect. Because once they start to tell you what to do, there's absolutely no win for you. Even if you do exactly what they tell you to do, they will say, I have to tell you what to do so that you can accomplish your work. So re-establish that position of respect is the best way forward, and then the position this relationship is gonna improve from that point forward. Thank you. Question, thoughts, comment? Thank you.
Jumping off of what you said about pitch work, I wanted to ask how you felt about design competitions, because I feel like they also take advantage of free designs that are submitted that don't get compensated for. So how do you feel about big companies that hold design competitions for younger designers, and how do you feel about the trade-off for free designs that these designers give, but they get the opportunity for their designs to be used in this big project that they would otherwise not really have had a chance to be a part of? How do you feel about that?
It's a two-way sword. It's a difficult question, because as a young designer, who's somebody who's just fresh out of school or in school, and that this is probably the one way you could get your work to be seen by the public. And unfortunately, some corporations do take advantage of that. And but for the most part, I see it as quite positive for the young designers. It also gives them a chance to springboard them to the next stage. Maybe they'll get hired. I think I see more positivity on that than negativity. So, yeah.
I could also add on to that. My perspective is it's about choices. You have a choice. The parameters has been set. do you take it on or do you not take it on? In the case of pitch work, we for the most part choose not to partake. And it's fine. There are people who decide to partake for whatever reason. It could be circumstantial, or maybe they really would like to build a new portfolio within that particular segment of the market. Sure, everybody has their own reason. So long as you make the decision that you want to proceed to do a design competition, I do see some value in that, but you probably best if you come to terms with yourself whether it makes sense for you or it does not. I don't think that the companies are out there to specifically to take advantage of us. I don't think that's where they're coming from. I mean, they are doing it for a reason. Of course, they do benefit from it. The question is, then we do have a choice. Do we take it up or do we not take it up? So find that level of comfort, I guess. And then if you decide that it is beneficial for you, yes, by all means, pursue it. And if you do spend time on design competition, please compete to win. No, serious. You have to do that little bit more and make sure you win, because you're going to invest that time, and that time is your self-investment, and you really make sense that if I'm going to put in 40 hours of late nights, then I must give myself the best possible chance of success. Okay. Thank you. Any other thoughts, comments, questions, perspective?
We have time for one more.
All right. Last one, you get the best shot. Yes.
Yep.
Out of curiosity, has it always been smooth sailing for you guys? And how was it like when you first started? I mean, like, it's easy to say, oh, achieve high happiness, do things that make you happy, take breaks. But I guess when you're starting a business, your bills to pay, no one knows you. So
It's definitely not a perfect bed of roses, which is why we could come up with this four to share with you. We could distill this to these 4 points that we can share with you. But I think it's really how you could overcome the obstacles and the difficulties when you're taking this journey of running your own business. And if you could do that, then it'll be a very fruitful journey. And I think we've been quite fortunate for the last 4.5, 5 years. And we've been fierce fighter. I think we should pat ourselves on our shoulders. There had been difficult circumstances, but there had also been really nice things that happened out of it. So I think it's inevitable that there will be difficulty, and I think if you want to run your own business, that's something that you need to be prepared to take on.
Yeah, that's totally true. It will never ever be easy. Even if you're working in a big corporate, just working within your own department already is painful, right? When we first started, when we first came back in 2007 March, we got our first little space. We just got started. I remember the space was right about this size, not even all the way towards the end, that little room that we had, right? And there was no windows. We were right in the heart of the Tong Li building. I'm not sure anybody's familiar with that. It's an industrial estate. But it's really about being, number one, self-made. So we went, the place that we go for lunch is usually on the top floor. I mean, it's brilliant. I mean, they have, you have your lunch with all the people that carry, the machineries, or the people who, move goods around, And it's brilliant because at one point I remember there was this guy. He's the owner of the coffee shop, and he's about 65, and he will put on his straw hat, and he will ride this little red bicycle. And even when he ride around the estate, even when he ride a bicycle, it wasn't like a straight ride. He'll go like this. I mean, really it's about perspective. It's really about what you want to make out of the situation. The second thing that I thought would address your point is in any process or startup or venture or endeavor, The people that you work with is really critical. I mean, some of our two employees, they are still here with us. They've since moved on to other pursuit. But they were the one that kept us going because they were the one who do the bubble tea thing going on. I mean, they're very happy sweeping the floor. They have no problem coming in over the weekends and work. That is that positive energy. That positive energy will sustain us in many, many instances. So in most of the dealings that we have with the clients, or the coworker, or your family, or your boyfriend or ex-girlfriend, it will never ever be smooth sailing. It's really about once you enter into that zone, that positive energy and the right people who you're working with, taking things in the right perspective, helps so much. And after that, it allows you to go away for a digital detox. Hopefully that helps. Does that answer your question? All right. Thank you, everybody.